Wait, what? Um, well,
We're back.
we're back. I mean,
Did you miss it?
live and living color.
We're here.
We're here.
We're here.
You know, I missed my other championship belt, but undisputed for a reason.
That was a good belt.
It was. It was.
I like your
You know,
sweatshirt you got there.
shout out to the cousins Ren and Keisha Rousseau.
Hey,
We
y'all.
were at the summit event and they gave me some pretty dope swag. They were like, "Look, it's time for you to reclaim something." So
I love their whole family.
they are amazing. And shout outs to, I guess, my niece. She's now having homecoming week coming up soon at Howard. So
Guess who's gonna be there?
sorry I can't make it.
Anyway, I will hold it down and represent.
Thank you for the great Northwest. Shout outs to the HBCU fam. All right, what's good, y'all? How does this even go?
I think you introduce yourself and then you introduce me and
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me see if I got this right. Hold on. I'm a little rusty.
okay.
Get the dust off. Have me sitting in the antique closet. All right. What's up, everybody? I'm Mark Monroe, accompanied. Whoa. Yeah. All right. What's up, everybody? I'm Mark Monroe, accompanied by my wonderful co-host, co-producer, and co-creator, and all things galactic. Give it up for none other than the wonderful.
It's Jillian Juicy and the place to be.
Okay, we're gonna have to find out if the audio
Let
went
me know.
in or out. So let us know in the comments.
Because I practiced.
Trust me, we did. It was a lot to get us here today. So, oh man, it's been a minute. It's kind of interesting because today's October 15th,
Yes.
and I'll get into it in a little bit, but it was very interesting. Something like magnanimous happened 4 years ago in October of 2020.
Really?
Yeah. Something was like widely unveiled that
Mhm.
became like probably one of the dopest strategies, not like the all-time dopest strategy, but a strategy
Was it a
was,
little?
yes, it was. So it's kind of interesting that, we returned kind of like on the eve of that.
Oh,
So
the rolling forward.
it'd be interesting to see exactly like, what that looked like. Cause, I got a lot of folks that hit me up during the summit talking about, look, I'm almost there.
In 2 weeks, we should come back to it.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, so
So,
I don't even know where to go with this. So
well, first of all, welcome back, y'all. It's been some time, but we are back, and we will be back every Tuesday, 5 p.m.
wait,
Pacific
every
time.
Tuesday?
I mean, every other Tuesday.
Oh,
Excuse me,
okay.
y'all. We got to ease back in. So every other Tuesday. So that's 6 Tuesdays of value-packed shows. 6 of them to the end of the year. So
Yes. Oof. I'm excited.
that's reasonable. That's reasonable.
Look, with all the heat that we got coming over these 6 episodes,
Right.
I got a lot to get up off my chest. So
There will be plenty of time for that,
indeed.
for the shady moments, Just to give you all a heads up, I will be looking in we have multiple screens going on,
Yeah,
different
there's a lot going on
devices, so I'm going to be all over the place. So as we get used to, the new
here. Yeah, until there's
setup.
gonna be something else coming down the pipeline. So
Yeah, as we are just tweaking things and getting reacclimated to
I know, right?
going live.
I know. Well, like we're YouTubers all over again.
Oh, Lord. We are. Well, okay. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So in this episode, we are going to cover a few things. One, we're going to go over what's happening in the market. We're going to do a deep dive. We'll get into some global insights.
Okay.
Some trends, and then I heard that you want to share your top 5 stock picks.
I mean, it's been a minute since, I kind of like just like.
And it is the return.
It's the return.
So it's the return on your return, right?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Those areas, that's what we're going to cover. So for those note takers, okay, camera, just zooming in. For those of you who are note takers, which I know you all are because you're scholars, those are the 5 areas. So if you're organizing your notes, it was the market, minute, deep dive, global insights, tech trends, and then you could just put Mark talking his ish. Okay.
I'm about to.
And then you might want to
Lord.
put a little footnote for shady moments.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, when the shades come on, you'll know. All right, so let's get into it.
Okay.
So up first, Mark,
Yeah.
we need to talk about what's been happening in the market. You know, we have recent Federal Reserve
Yep.
actions and decisions and all that, how the market reacted to that. We can talk about some key economic indicators.
Okay.
And any other insights, especially dealing with the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield.
Okay.
And
I gotta do
think
all
that's-
that in a minute.
no,
Oh, I can do it. I'm just saying.
no, not in a minute. We got about 5 minutes. I think it'll take about 5
All right.
minutes.
So we got the 5 minutes of power.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. I'm probably sure that you haven't been living underneath a rock. So you've been paying attention to what's been happening within the market. Shout outs to all of y'all that have been rocking since day one. Check it. The Federal Reserve did a rate cut of 50 basis points. It was kind of like teetering between 25 and 50, but then once when we got some of the PCE PCE and CPI data
You gotta say
alongside,
what those mean.
they know.
Okay. If you don't know, put in the comment.
Look, each one teach one. Look. Yeah, so we saw the economic data come out and it was pretty much in line, and we saw that inflation was on its way down. I think that we currently sit at what, 2.1 or 2.4 or something like that.
2.1.
Okay, and so pretty much Fed said, okay, hey, it's about time. We need to prepare for the soft landing before something breaks. Some people are arguing whether or not they did it too soon. Should they have waited till after the election, or did they make the right move? So far, look, as much as we've been talking so much stuff about Jerome Powell, look, he did it. Hey,
He did.
look.
He did.
And so 50 basis point move. I think there's the expectation of another rate cut that comes probably post-election, probably about 25, maybe 15. But I think that the Fed, they're probably going to play it by ear because they don't want to get a little bit too overzealous.
Right.
So I think that that's what we probably project. My projection is probably probably two more 25 basis point moves, if that, before the year is out. And then essentially we'll probably have more rate cuts later on in 2025. Let's see here. Market's been kind of like trading in a beautiful zone. It's respected all levels. It's bounced off of, 200-day moving averages in some arenas and 100-day moving averages off of others. And so we've had a pretty strong bull market. Bull market got reset after the whole grand reset of 2022. And since then, we've been doing quite well. Shout outs to October 26, 2022. And so pretty much, long story short, all is good, all is blessed. I think that we have a little bit of worry as it pertains to some recession on the horizon. I'm kind of projecting U.S. slows down around May of 2025, where we
Okay.
probably start getting that data coming in, which is normal. And a lot of times people try to say recession or depression. I'm just thinking recession. We're just seeing still slow down. And then after that, it's pretty much, unless something breaks, I think it's smooth sailing ahead.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. Now, what about the 10-year Treasury yield? It declined from 3.91% to 3.81% in September.
Okay, so are we talking about the 10-year or the?
Yeah, the 10-year.
So the 10-year Treasury has been, I think, it got all the way up to about 4 and some change. It pretty much retook the 2-year marker, so that yield curve has it's reinverted. So where pretty much things fall in sync, and so pretty much what happens is that people are accepting more risk for long-term bonds versus essentially short-term. The thing that I'm really still paying attention to, though, is the 3-month over the 10-year. So the 3-month is still highly inverted over the 10. But when we get back to that, I think that's probably going to mark the stage for recession is officially here.
Okay.
So-
So keep your eye on the 3-month and also the 10-year, but
Yeah.
mainly on the 3-month.
Yeah, so people typically pay attention to the 10-year when it comes to like auto loans, credit cards, home loans, those types of things. We saw, say, for example, mortgage rates come down a little bit, and now they're kind of like teetering. And it's typically going to be in a choppy direction until we get a little bit more sustenance on the rate cut side. So I think that, we're pretty much in a normal, like, think about it like this. You're landing. So when you come down, you're going to come back up to stabilize, and then
Right.
you're going to come down a little bit further. So I think that that's ultimately what's happening in the economic landscape. Of course, given that nothing else, pops up.
Okay, so that was a good segue.
I know, right?
Dun, dun, dun.
I try.
So speaking of that,
Yeah.
now moving on to taking a deeper dive into the interest rates and the economic impact.
Yep.
Let's get into, well, you already gave analysis of the Fed's cut rate decision.
Yep.
Unless there is anything else you want to say about that, like let's talk about.
Look, it's the
Okay.
hand. Look,
Oh,
it
it's my
recognizes
hand. Look,
the
you know how I
hand.
like to
Look,
gesticulate.
it's with you.
It's like, whoop. Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you're good.
All right. So let's talk about some implications for the different sectors. Now, I'm saying that to you because you know why I'm saying that
I know,
to you.
I
You
know.
know why I'm saying that.
Look, bring it.
Okay. So we have out of the three sectors,
Yep.
let's cover
That's
the
okay. That's
housing
okay.
market,
Okay.
the bond market.
We did. No, we're still live.
Okay,
though.
I'm all like, like
we're still live. It's just
okay.
we just
You
still
know,
got to get
it's a little
adjusted.
rusty.
Like
It's
there's
all
some
good.
things.
It's all good.
Okay, so you said the
housing,
housing market, the bond
bonds,
market,
and
and
labor.
labor.
Yes.
Okay, so we've already started seeing that where labor has like literally we're seeing like kind of like this Hunger Games type of activity where, folks that are at the ports, they ultimately went on strike. Of course,
Yes.
they want to make more money. They see that other industries, though, lo and behold, they actually make very good money. So,
But they want it more.
but they want it more. I mean,
And they
look, it's
deserve
time to get
more.
with the times. And if they're bringing in all this product and all this inventory and also doing a bunch of other stuff, then hey, look.
Strategy wise, that was good to strike at this point.
At that point in time, yes, it was perfect.
Seriously.
Boeing, you know what? I'm gonna leave
You
that
know
for a
what?
whole
I
nother
think you
day.
need to leave that
I'm gonna
out
leave that
because
up for
they're
a whole
on
nother
some.
day.
Okay.
Look, listen. All right, so let's see. Mortgage rates.
No, yeah, you can talk about mortgage rates, the
So like,
bonded market.
yeah, so the housing market, I think that ultimately when you see layoffs, I mean, you look for certain things. Like, for example, if unemployment goes up, it's typically naturally a thing that where we typically would see that home values typically come down. Which, by the way, remind me of a little rant for real estate.
Well,
But
that's why I had said that earlier.
yeah, so I'm rusty, y'all. I'm rusty. A lot's been happening.
A lot.
So yeah, so typically if you see typically in previous markets, when unemployment goes up, home values come down. And then ultimately it's like it's on the Fed to ultimately do some type of easing in order to stabilize markets or to keep them stabilized. They typically try to be ahead of the curve. And in this particular arena, they are ahead so far.
Okay.
We saw that home mortgage rates came down a little bit, and we saw a lot of folks go into the refi, reverse, as well as buying new homes. And then, of course, it shot back up. I mean, it's kind of like supply and demand. When you see a large quantity of demand that comes through, then supply becomes short. So I would expect that mortgage rates would pop up for a second, but ultimately we'll see it on the decline. Will we see it go back down to those rates where it was during the pandemic? No.
No.
But
cue your rant.
oh, so I mean, it's kind of like indicative outside of the Fed, but ultimately, look, the real estate industry is cooked. Can we just call it? The real estate industry is cooked just like today's dating market. It's cooked. I mean, just like even some of the stuff that we're seeing generationally, it's cooked.
That could be a whole other episode.
It could be, and you never know. But the reason why I'm saying it's cooked is because of the fact is nobody really pays attention to real estate like that. I mean, the real estate game that a lot of folks haven't really been paying attention to is not the land in which that you walk upon. It's none of that. The real estate market in which that everybody is competing is up here. So this is the new real estate market.
Okay.
The attention is the new currency. So for example, all those folks that are literally doing all this ridiculous stuff on camera just to stay relevant or just to have attention and all this other stuff. Think about the amount of dollars that all these companies spend just to literally capture your attention. Think about the amount of revenue that Meta brings in on a monthly basis. Hell, even let's talk about YouTube or Google or Alphabet. Think about how much money they gather just to have you watching shorts or YouTube videos. I mean, hopefully we're of sustenance. TikTok. So the real estate game is they're all fighting for a piece and space of real estate as it pertains to your brain. Now that's not even including the other apps and games in which that you play and everything else, the TV shows in which that you may watch that ultimately like just like that occupy your time. That's the new real estate game. And if you understand that game, and ultimately a lot of folks within the tech space understood that, and it's still tons of opportunity, because when you think about like the amount of capacity that could sit within a person's brain from time to time, then it lets you know that there's opportunity. But at the same token, it's just like, okay, hey, that's the real estate now.
Well, now that you say that, like that's interesting, especially when you think about it in the context of Web 3.0 and the ownership of content moving towards the creator. So now, to me, when I hear that the real estate is really in the mind, to me, I think, oh, that's an opportunity for creatives. Shout out to my fellow creatives, for creatives to start really thinking about what their creative contributions are going to be
Correct.
that lead to their own path to wealth building.
Well, it's kind of funny because, like, remember back, I mean, probably we don't remember, but it was just, before we went off the air, I think in December, I mentioned like kind of like people said it was a very dark quote, but it still rings true. And in this generation, in this era, as it pertains to what we're stepping into, here's the quote that you need to understand: you're only as useful as the data that you produce.
I can see why people
So
thought that
when you
was
think about that, like, yeah, it's a very dark quote, but I
Mhm.
mean, but at the same token, just because it's dark doesn't make it not true. And so the thing is like if everybody's competing for attention as it pertains to take a spot, as it pertains to attention, think about all the apps that you use that are on your devices or like iPad, MacBook, or whatever it is, and think about how choosy you are as it pertains to downloading those things.
Yeah.
Think about how choosy you are as it pertains to like the places in which that we eat. Like that's real estate that sits within the mind. You could even go to a bad restaurant, or you can have a good experience one time, go back to that restaurant, have a bad experience, and then because of the fact that you're still chasing that first experience because it's grabbed your attention, you're gonna go back
And give it another chance.
and give it another chance.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes you get the benefit of the doubt, but I'm an app junkie. So if I see an app, I'm not afraid.
Yo, it's a go on.
I'm not afraid to, purchase the app. Like I have so many paid apps, like it's like nothing now.
Yeah, but think about it. Like even that within that
Mhm.
arena, like most of your apps are free. Most of your video games are now going towards the freemium model, and then once they got you hooked, then they're ultimately going to have you keep paying those microtransactions.
That's true.
I'm trying to help you guys read the tea leaves here because I'm going to set you all up for something that's coming up later on down the road. But ultimately, like we're seeing a lot of things that are transpiring, and it's not just within the gaming market. They just got it. They just did it well. They just did it very, very well. I promise you, everybody else is going to pay attention, and ultimately, they're going to start making that implementation into their business model.
Yeah, I can sense things starting to get gamified, like everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's look at the long-term economic outlook.
Let's do it.
So we have, well, you already talked about like the expectations
Yep.
for further cuts in 2024 or so. That's good. Now, what about just economic projections as it relates to the Fed?
Yeah.
Do you see any growth? Do you see like inflation declining? What do
I
you
do
think?
see inflation declining, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
going to be sticky.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'm afraid of is stagflation. So where it's like, okay, hey, we just get stagnant, and that's a terrible place to be because it does have some of the reticence of inflation, but it's kind of like that person that you just like, okay, hey, they just don't get the hint that you just don't want to be associated with them, but they still keep coming around. And so that's how I kind of like define
Yeah,
stagflation.
that's a good.
And so I look at it like that. Like that's the biggest fear that I have for the market. I mean, outside of stagflation, I mean, in a deflationary environment, it's good in some arenas. It also brings down profit margins in others. I mean, but in the grand scheme of thing, like I said back in 2023, it's all about growth now. So all companies now are like literally giving the green light. And naturally, when they go into growth phase, you're probably looking at that phase for about a solid 2 to 4 years.
And when you think about AI as an economic driver,
Yes. So
acceleration.
so here's the part where people are saying like, like AI, 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 AI. So the interesting thing about artificial intelligence, and I think it's kind of funny because everybody gets so caught up on like the generative AI, but honestly, it lacks creativity. It's only just a reflection of
The
your
key word is
creativity.
generative.
Exactly.
So,
But the interesting thing about it though is, I mean, look at the time in which that when those things first came to market and how expensive that they were, and then
mhm.
look at how cheap that they have become. So that's really good because that's going to create a marketplace for folks that are going to step into the market in the second phase, second round of AI,
Mhm.
which allows them to go to a place of, like you said,
Scale.
scale.
Mhm.
So I think that this is a very much so opportune time, and it's perfect because you couldn't have written a better story of if we go into a recession, and then on top of that, now you go into a recession and you got tools, the creativity juices start to flow, and then essentially we start to see some of the most, I mean, we probably get to see some of the most innovative ideas that come forth because of the fact that the infrastructure is there.
Well, and also access
Yep.
is more widely spread.
Yep.
That's
So,
what I'm saying.
yep.
Every time when we're talking about all these things, like they're literally opportunities. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like just opportunities to figure out, okay, what parts of my wealth ladder,
Hmm.
which rung is this going to be? Where does AI fit as a rung?
Yep.
And oftentimes AI runs throughout the whole like ladder.
Yep.
And we spent the first 4 years talking about one rung of the ladder, which was the public side of the market.
Yep.
But there's another rung
Hmm.
on the private side.
Hmm.
And then I'm wondering if one of the other rungs, because I feel like it is still private,
Yep.
but
Government.
well, government's definitely a rung, but like just our how we would like implement creativity
Yep.
and capture some of that mind real estate.
So it's kind of interesting, Jolene, because when we think about it, right, like we got enterprise, which
Mm-hmm.
we know what they're all about.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like juggernaut. Like even if you're a startup, it's probably going to take you about a year to 2 years to really like get in bed with enterprise-based companies
Mm-hmm.
because they want to wait and see if you have the staying power.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but once you're in, you're in. Like the dollars just keep flowing. Then you got government, which government is kind of slow to move because, of course, national security and everything else. So, of
Mm-hmm.
course, they're testing, of course, but at the same token, they haven't fully bought in. Like they know of these
Put a
tools
toe
and
in.
everything else. It's like
Mm-hmm.
not even a toe. It's like
Dang,
it's a smell. Like, look. I just want to know. Like, they're just getting the steam.
okay.
They're getting a steam facial right now. That's it. And then sooner or later they will start to jump in. Just
Mm-hmm.
like think about how long it took for government to get into cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's like they're just now like fully breached into cloud services where they're embedding that into their infrastructure.
That's because their policies and regulations have to catch up to the innovation. Oftentimes, it's the regulation, the red tape, the bureaucracy that slows down progress.
Correct. And then the other part to that is that you have the commercial side,
Mm-hmm.
which is, the retails and everything else, the businesses to consumers base, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the market that a lot of times people don't really talk about, which is probably sometimes, in many cases, sometimes the bigger market. It's the Main Street market. The Main Street market is the one in which that people really can tell you whether or not something is truly viable. And so it's kind of interesting because some of these AI companies, they got it right the
Mm-hmm.
first go round. Like
Luck of the
they
draw.
started off, instead of going with enterprise,
Mm-hmm.
they started off in Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then Main Street went to consumer, and then consumer went to like not non-government. We always skip them, and
Mm-hmm.
then we go to enterprise. So now, like for example, when you look at companies like NVIDIA, by the way, not
Nvidia.
NVIDIA,
Nvidia.
NVIDIA. Say it with me.
Nvidia.
NVIDIA. All right, so pretty much what you saw is that essentially that they literally made the tools available through their Omniverse, which is
Mm-hmm.
actually free for everybody to like literally test those AI tools and everything else. And then it's
Opportunity.
like, then you saw enterprise companies saying, well, we could test those things too.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, you're probably going to see that Blackwell is probably going to be one of the biggest drivers as it pertains to revenue. Think about it. Like, it's never been in the history of a product releasing. I hope you're writing this down.
Mm-hmm.
But think about it. You have markets that are ultimately moving negatively when people hear about a potential delay in a Blackwell chip towards a semiconductor company. Now, remember back during the pandemic when things were shortaged,
Mm-hmm.
there was backlog there, but at the same token, the stock still ran because of the fact that they saw that there was a glut of folks that ultimately wanted to buy. Well, even if you were delayed with Blackwell, you're going to face the same thing because everybody wants it, everybody needs it.
That demand.
But then there's this other part to it where, like, think about the marketplace in which that through that it's creating other market opportunities for the other players.
AKA y'all, us.
Yes. So, for example, like, you know, a lot of times people have been talking about data centers as it pertains to energy. Well, with the amount of computing power that's happening, we got to start looking for alternatives so that way it's not having major impacts on climate change. So keeping these buildings cool, keeping them regulated as it pertains to temperature so that way it doesn't affect performance, aka like a Duke Energy. So those are the types of things in which that people just got to pay attention to as it pertains to like reading the tea leaves. So let me run it back for you. Main Street, consumer, then, you know, government will probably move them to last. Then you have enterprise and then government.
All I hear is money. Okay.
I mean, facts.
Okay, moving on to global insights. Okay, let's talk about how the international markets are responding to our U.S. rate cuts and how that impacts them.
Yeah.
And then let's also talk about like some geopolitical.
I could tie those all
events.
I could
Okay.
tie them all in together. So essentially, like, you know, the number one things in which that people look at as it pertains to geopolitical and then also like what's happening international. So like, for example, I think today we heard that ASML had reported a beat on its earnings, but then at the same token, there was some mixed data that ultimately said, okay, hey, whoa, like, you know, don't get too overzealous. And so that I think that sent shockwaves across the semiconductor market, aka I think it was like ASML was down 16% for the day. But I mean, again, opportunity.
That's why I was like,
But it's like I look at it like this: name outside of ASML, name another major chip company that's in Europe.
I don't even have a watch.
Okay.
We ain't gonna hold you.
So I mean, name an innovative company that's coming out of Europe.
Innovative
Yep.
in Europe in the same sentence.
Okay. So I mean, it's kind of interesting
I should
because
have my shades on.
listen. So the reason why I say this, and this is no shade to our European brothers and sisters and cousins, it's just the thing is that, you know, every country is playing its part in the process. So for example, you look towards the United States and probably places of Asia that are doing massive amounts of innovation.
Have the most patents.
Exactly. And then on top of that, you look at, say, for example, the EU as a place that literally sets the stage for regulating them all.
So that's their part. Their role
Yeah,
is
I mean, if
regulation.
you really go and look at like EU, you really look at it and see that, okay, hey, that's a major part to their GDP. I mean, of course, outside of other things like agriculture and stuff like that. But when we just talk about pure like innovation, I mean, you're really looking at like, you know, we'll give you this ticket, we'll give you this ticket, we'll give you this ticket, pay
Yeah.
up. And notice it sets precedent for everybody else on the global stage. I mean, of course, we got things that are happening amongst, you know, countries like China. I mean, of course, we got Ukraine, Russia that also puts a damper as it pertains to trade and also supply chains. But I think that supply chains are always adjusting. So, I mean, what are geopolitical tensions that first start? I mean, of course, like, for example, geopolitical tensions as it pertains to what's happening over there with Israel, and then look at what happened within the market, and then look at how fast the market like literally recovered. I mean, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate as it pertains to what's happening, for sure. But it's just letting you know that essentially it's like, okay, hey, the market has this habit of moving quite fast. And that's when you think about it, like, look at it like this. One bank here in the United States moves $10 trillion a day. Do you know what that bank is?
It's not JP.
It is JP. After the
Shout out
government
to Uncle Charles.
they move $10 trillion a day. And it's like they're well above the requirement as it pertains to allow depositories due to the fact that the government said, hey, go buy this bank. So again, it's like when you really think about the geopolitical tensions, I mean, really, I would say look at the bottom line, look at the money part to it. Where's the money going?
And see, that's why when we see all of the geopolitical like tensions like really playing out on the world stage, there's like the human side of us obviously that cares about what's happening.
Yes.
But then when you're thinking about your money in the marketplace, the market moves
It's so
away from it
fast.
so fast.
It's so fast.
It's like no emotion. It's like, where's the money? And once it finds the money, that's where it plays.
Exactly. I mean, when I look at it as it pertains to what is it that I see, I mean, like, for example, Europe was in a recession. Remember, in 2023, 2022, Europe went through a massive recession. We talked about it maybe for 2 weeks, and then ultimately nobody talked about it.
I remember Greece.
Yep. Well, Greece, that was a collapse.
Yeah.
But I mean, no, what we've really been seeing is that their economy really slowed down, and also given post-pandemic, they just never really kind of like picked up the pace to get back to where they were. Now their economy is finally starting to awake. China is ultimately trying to keep things afloat, but yet at the same token, their real estate market is struggling. And think about it. Think about how long we've been talking about China's real estate market struggling.
For a while.
Remember the story of Evergrande?
Yes.
That nobody, like, they talked about it for, 2-3 weeks? Market got like a little bit scared and spooked. And then like we saw this massive downturn in the market. And then ultimately everybody just said, well, okay.
And I think part of that too is people in companies obviously are just chasing their bag, you know?
Yeah.
There's like that emotion for a little bit that doesn't really impact the companies. It impacts the humans that are,
Yep.
experiencing it. But then when it comes to your portfolio, it's almost like you have a split mind, when you're following the money versus having real opportunity to grieve and be aware of
Yep.
what is going on this planet of
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, what about cybersecurity as far as impact?
so it's interesting because we're seeing like a massive amount of a shift. Like, for example, even in colleges, you're seeing a lot of computer science degrees going for cybersecurity majors and stuff like that. Though cheat code is just literally just go get your CompTIA and Security Plus, study up, study hard, maybe go get your Cisco Networking Academy certification, and then ultimately you could probably go get a government job or go work at some of the other tech companies, and you're in. Yeah. But as it pertains to cybersecurity, I mean, alongside with the proliferation as it pertains to what we're seeing in data, and the more that we're seeing data centers and everything else start to expand, and the necessary need is still growing, it's still at high demand, then you're going to need security. You're going to need security infrastructure, you're going to need folks on the support side that can also come out and just make support calls and everything else. So again, I think that honestly, it's like we're at a place where we're seeing, like I said, and a lot of folks remember they were afraid that AI wouldn't create jobs. Ha ha ha!
It's a whole new
It's a whole new
realm
It's
of
a
jobs.
whole new world.
I was about to hit the note too.
Oh no, see, I can't. No, but real talk though, it's like there's so much opportunity that's literally starting to open up because of the fact that it's kind of like we've released the tools into the market, and then essentially now that those tools are in the marketplace, I mean, people and their creativity and human ingenuity are going to say, oh, well, there's opportunity here. There's been this long dragging problem here that ultimately that I can participate and help solve.
Right. And then also it's as we're looking at the different industries that are in the news and that are prominent, like on that real estate, the mine real estate, a good question to ask is, okay, if this market or this industry is peaking or they're growing, what are the other needed areas? Like you said, if there's a lot of data centers coming up, well, then security is going to be needed. And that's where you can like look for extended opportunities.
Remember Anthony Chukumba at the summit?
Yes.
So
How
Anthony
can I
Chukumba, look, hey, we got to bring him back again for summit
We do.
part 2, him and Mark, because we got to have that again and probably
Yeah.
add Dan to the
That was
to the
gold. That was
stage.
gold.
It was. So here's the interesting part about it. Anthony, he covers retail. Like he covers other things, but he knows retail.
Very passionate about
Very
retail.
passionate about retail, eats, sleeps, drinks, and breathes it, knows it. Now, here's the interesting thing about it. A lot of folks are saying that, well, retail is ultimately dead. Is it though?
Not based on this
Is
credit
it?
card debt.
I mean, not only that, but think about it like this. Well, we just saw this massive boom within the tech space, right? That says, okay, hey, we've created all these tools. Well, if tech companies are going to if tech is going to keep teching,
Right.
then essentially they got to pass those tools over to other folks like healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
industrial,
Mm-hmm.
retail.
Yep.
So like you see a lot of retail sectors now that are starting to incorporate artificial intelligence into their lineup or into their process, into their workflows.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're starting to see that it actually works. I mean, look at companies like Best Buy. How has Best Buy outlasted majority of the other like tech retail companies?
Best Buy has a strong pivot game. They were
Them and
pivoting
Home
during the
Depot
pandemic.
too.
Yep, they were doing all that during the pandemic, and they just keep doing it.
Hmm.
They're a fighter. I like to think of them as pretty scrappy.
No, you have not missed the five yet, but you got to pay attention because I hope
It's
you're reading the
coming.
tea leaves. Because if you're listening to what I'm saying, I'm actually giving you more than
It's
five.
yeah, it's coming. You just got to pay attention. Pretty much, there's opportunity everywhere you look.
Everywhere you look.
You just got to pick a place.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people it's like if you pick a spot
Mm-hmm.
in the market and just sit there and pay attention, you will see that a world of opportunities opens up within your space.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, everybody looks at the most shining darlings of the market, the Magnificent Seven, whatever the hell they're going to call them next week.
It'll change.
It'll change.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that you got to look at it in the sense of, okay, if I'm in, let's say, healthcare, who's moving the needle within healthcare? And I'll even go on record and say, look, I was wrong about Palantir.
Mm.
At one point in time, I literally said that Palantir, unless they get outside of government like contracts and everything else. So I said, until they do that, I don't see a future for them. Now look at them, killing it. So again, there's opportunity elsewhere. And if you just sit down and like literally just sit back and pay attention,
Pick a sector.
pick a sector or pick a subsector within
Mhm.
that sector and just pay attention, you'll see that there's a world of opportunity that's happening right around you. Like for example, how do you think that we're able to see like, cloud services or data storage, or how is that we're able to see fintech and all these other things? You just got to sit and pay attention for a minute.
Yeah. So we've kind of dabbled into tech trends, but there are some different areas for advancement. We talked about health
Yep.
when it comes to drug discovery
Mm-hmm.
and development. Then we've also talked about just other breakthroughs as far as deep learning and generative
Mm-hmm.
AI.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other so we have to pay attention to the companies that are using AI as an economic driver, and we're seeing more of that. I feel like when AI first came out, they were using it just as a feature. It wasn't going beyond that. So the companies
Well,
that didn't fully integrate it,
but
those
that's
are not
smart
the ones
though.
that were here though.
But that's smart
I mean
though.
today.
Remember, because we kind of had this conversation a while back, and I asked the question: is AI the product or is it the feature?
Mm.
You
I do
know,
remember you asking that. Mhm.
kind of like if you look across all companies, right?
Mhm.
Outside of like the folks in like, because honestly, though that Jensen Huang is doing massive amounts of AI production and everything else, it's just a feature on top of what is it that NVIDIA does.
Mhm.
They still sell semiconductor chips.
Yep.
That's the product. The product is the semiconductor chips that do the processing
Mhm.
and GPUs that also do even better than your typical CPUs. So, I mean, that's the product. The feature that sits on top of the product
Mhm.
ultimately gives it a whole new meaning, whole new life. Look at what happened with Apple. Like the reason why everybody's paying attention to the iPhone 16 series is because of again the feature of AI, or I like what they did with it, Apple Intelligence AI.
I know. Leave it to Apple.
So I mean, yeah, so it's just a feature.
Mhm.
And I think that the thing is that when companies like they got it right, where it's like, okay, hey, this is a feature, but what sits beneath is the unique selling point, which is either the true service or the real product. AI just
Mhm.
ultimately just makes it easier
Better.
and ultimately helps make it scalable.
Yeah. So okay. That's good to pay attention to when you're picking a sector or a subsector.
Yep.
See how AI can be used to accelerate growth or or scale rapidly,
Yep.
especially if it's something that just came out.
Yep.
Okay, so We are flying through.
We are.
We
Oh
are
my
flying
gosh.
through. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the impact on job markets.
Yep.
And you kind of touched on it already, but the demand for these new like STEM skills,
Yep.
because there's
Crucial.
opportunity there.
Okay. So if your parents, and I'm like, I come from the tech world.
Mhm.
So I'm going to give you, and mind you, this is not the end all be all. So my word isn't manna from up above. It's just a perspective. So I want you to keep that in mind. But from what I'm seeing and from what is it that my insights have shown me, there are still people out there that are still going to be studying computer science. But now there's a divergent path where
Mhm.
now people can study AI engineering. Now, essentially, like you can, like you're honestly, if you're sending your child away to college to go study history, I don't know about that one. I mean, if you're studying your,
Not to be paying for it, not college
absolutely not,
tuition. Do that
absolutely
on your
not.
own time.
I think,
Read a
yeah.
book
I mean, the
and just leave
tools
it
have
at
gotten
that.
so much better and have
Hmm.
been so democratized as it pertains to having access to this information.
Hmm.
I think the thing is that like re-looking at education in a whole different way of like, okay, hey, not just what's sexy, but also what builds tomorrow. What's going to build tomorrow?
But the problem with education, though, much like the EU, it's all about regulation and policies and like um, things that again cause red tape. So they're going to be slower to adopt, even though we need education to quicken its pace. Like there are good programs at, for example, the University of Washington. They have an
Yep.
excellent AI program that's
Yeah,
pretty
look to
diverse.
universities that are literally pushing the needle. Like it's
Hmm.
no longer about prestige anymore as it pertains to like, oh, I went to like, don't get me wrong, if you went to Harvard and everything else, kudos to you and everything else. But it's more so in the sense of what universities are really truly pushing the needle as it pertains to academic offering.
Hmm.
And same thing as it pertains to trade skills as well. So
Hmm.
if you decide not to go to college, then there's so many different other pathways in which they provide you an alternative. You really need to start looking at those things today. And it starts not just at it doesn't start at college, it starts at high school. Like that's where the real competition is really like heating up in high
Hmm.
school. And I know that that's going to scare some people because they're like, well, Mark, how do we get access? Look, you got access to platforms like Coursera. You spend $600, you have unlimited courses and programs in which that you can spend your money, that you don't even have to spend anything extra on. You
Hmm.
can literally just like get tons of certifications and everything else just for spending $600 for the year. And like I said, it's like, you're seeing more tools like that become so readily available. And now essentially that you can start to apply those skills into the real world. When we look at, say, for example, some of the things in which are the changing of the old guard, right? Like, for example, a lot of your assistant-based jobs are now starting to be replaced by AI.
Hmm.
But in the same process, it's also creating other places of opportunity. So it may not be assistance, it may just be support. So we are
And
saying goodbye to assistance and we're saying hello to support
support.
services.
Well, and also, especially for shout out to all the older millennials, um, and older than that too. Don't be afraid of AI.
No, don't.
Many people, I've had several conversations. I've been to a couple of events that deal with just, AI and its offerings and limitations and possibilities. And it's shocking how many people have this fear about AI. And I don't know
Well,
where it comes from.
simple. The human mentality is so eager to hate something that it doesn't understand.
But the thing is that AI will never replace humans. I don't care what anybody says.
No,
Human creativity.
because it can't replace creativity.
Exactly. So
Like
again, don't be afraid.
could it literally recreate a Basquiat original? Or can it create a Basquiat original?
No, because it's not Basquiat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point.
It can
It
duplicate,
can duplicate.
but it'll
It
never
could
be
probably even give you renditions,
mm-hmm,
but it's all going to still point back to the original.
Basquiat-esque.
Exactly. It's going to all point back to an original that was done by a human.
Right. And so, and then also that brings up the point of, again, you, because since I'm talking to you,
Hmm.
being originals. What does Beyonce say? One of one, right? So you are one of one. You have the ability with based on your creativity and whatever you're contributing to compete in this whole new realm of what did you call it? The real estate of
Real
the
estate of the
mind.
mind. Yep.
And using all these tools that are out there. So whether you are a student and you're thinking about what career you want to go into, there are opportunities that will help you build that first rung of your wealth ladder.
I agree. I agree. And I think that we're now in a place where it's like, Jolene, it's like, now that the tools are starting to become so easily accessible, like, you know, I look at it like this, you know, people can use their discernment now. Like, you know, when it was first infancy, it's like everybody's looking to somebody as a subject matter expert. But now it's like, you know, also AI has kind of helped with that to kind of help regulate that. I mean, not regulate, but, you know, democratize it. And I think that moving forward is just, you know, again, be curious. Like literally just be curious and let your curiosity just run wild. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how young you are. You know, if you're a parent and your child is curious into tinkering into these things, of course, there's nothing wrong with having safeguards. But again, it's like, you know, allow their curiosity and imagination to run wild.
You never know who they're going to be.
Exactly.
So, Mark,
Yes.
before we close out, thank you for attending everyone's show. I'm just kidding. We're not closing it out yet because there's something that everyone is waiting for.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, the 5.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, y'all didn't pick it up yet?
How
Like,
many
really?
stocks do you really have in stock?
All right. So, all right. And then next, you know, the camera follows you again.
Oh my gosh. No.
Okay. So check it. So, you know, technically I got more infinity stones than the stock picks that I'm providing, but technically I provide, if you pay it, go back and, like, honestly, here's the real thing. If you go back and pay attention to a lot of the things in which that I said years ago, it's relevant today. And also a lot of those things are really coming to fruition today. So it's like, if you were paying attention and if you were studying up and prepared, then you're ready. But for the folks in whom which said, look, man, I came here for the picks. All right, bet. So my number one pick, and I'm just gonna have to say it. My number one pick moving forward is AMD.
AMD.
My number one pick is AMD.
You have been strong on AMD.
Well,
Very
remember though,
consistent.
in October though, I was strong on NVIDIA.
Yes, but I'm still saying it has always been there for you.
It has. I mean, it's definitely been, you know, it's been a friend.
It's been a friend. Shout out to SMH stock day.
Shout out to SMH. But yeah, I definitely like. I think that my number one pick is definitely AMD. I mean, you know, I know that Dan Ives, and you know, God bless him, he definitely calls Jensen Huang the godfather of AI. I think that he just makes AI cool, especially with the leather jacket and everything else. And Jensen Huang is kind of cool. But interesting thing is, look, you're gonna put some respect on Lisa Su's name. And especially now that we're starting to see that the PC market is starting to come back, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of iteration that the PC market goes through. And I think that AMD is set up very well for that. And on top of that, they can also compete within other spaces. And honestly, I don't think that anybody's going to compete with AMD when it comes to gaming. And we're about to see a vast boom in the gaming market as well.
Exciting.
Exactly. I'm very excited there. And then on top of that, what they're going to do in data center and, you know, a few other things. I'm just excited for AMD. Not to say that NVIDIA is still not going to be the majority leader as it pertains to it, but they've been holding on to so much market share that is going to create opportunity and space for, say, for example, the second person to come in and say, okay, hey, I'm gonna stamp my place as number 2.
Yeah, because we can't have monopolies.
I don't think that Intel is going to be able to compete. So I think that, you know, we might be looking at Intel as a potential acquisition target.
Woo,
So
that's a major thing to say, given that's like a legacy company, damn near.
I mean, you know, some legacies come to an end.
That's
like,
true.
you know,
That's true.
I mean, I'm sorry, but sometimes you just got to catch the stray.
What's number 2?
So number 2, I'm definitely going to say it's Meta.
Meta.
I think that the XR game, I mean, they definitely tried their hand at VR, and then they definitely got into AR, and they kind of figured out, like, okay, hey,
What's that intersection?
what's the intersection look like? And I think they figured it out. It's going to get very good as it pertains to competition between Meta and Apple. I'm excited, you know, because
That's going to be fun to watch.
it's going to be very fun to watch. I mean, honestly, grab your popcorn, and also get you a few other snacks and a few. Look, listen, I am looking forward to having a beautiful front row seat to this fight. Yeah, so I'm really, really excited about Meta AI. I know that other folks out there have their reservations about it and whatnot, but honestly, I just look at it like this. There's just too many great services. There's too many great like features and everything else in which that the company has built. And then I think that they got their spending under control.
Hmm.
I think that that's just a massive opportunity for them. And we're looking at a world beyond Instagram and Facebook. Like
Yeah.
they're like think about it like Meta like when they do events, they don't really talk that heavily about Instagram and Facebook anymore. They talk more about the infrastructure in which that they built that other companies quietly and silently use.
Well, what's interesting too about Meta is we were, for all the the OG cousins, like we were there
Hmm.
when Facebook changed their company name to Meta, and we were
Hmm.
paying attention to, um, the toes that were dipped in, and then it kept getting deeper and deeper, and now we have this setup for something great.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be lit. I know that I've been saying this other company for a while
Okay,
too.
what's number three?
You better say what's up to Galactica in the driveway.
Oh Lord,
I have to give it up. I have
Tesla.
to give it up to Tesla.
Okay.
And after I get through one and two,
Mm-hmm.
it's three, four, five. It could be like in any order.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely believe that Tesla is definitely like Of course, we saw the event as it pertains to the AI event.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Elon, separate
You
Elon.
have to separate. You have to separate.
But you got to look at the company as it pertains to what it does. You also have to
Mm-hmm.
look at it like this: people still want to go work at that company and
Mm-hmm.
do phenomenal work.
Mm-hmm.
And the strides in which that like what we're seeing within robotics and everything else, the fact that you had such like machinery amongst humans interacting,
Mm-hmm.
and then it has people questioning their reality of is this real or is this somebody like controlling it on the back end side?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good conversation to be had. So, of course, you can get on them as it pertains to their timelines and everything else, but I just think that honestly, when this company goes back up to its $1 trillion valuation, don't fight me. I escalate that to somebody else.
Number four.
Number four, Netflix.
Netflix. Okay, say more. Say more.
So I think that Netflix is definitely going to have a few magic tricks up its sleeve. I think that honestly, with the deal that they're doing with WWE, which a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people aren't paying attention to, where they're actually bringing live sports entertainment to their platform,
Mm-hmm.
that's just different.
That's something you were talking about though
I
for a
was talking
minute.
about that for a few years, and now that it's
Yeah.
coming to fruition,
You're
look,
excited.
listen,
Where's your belt? Where's your belt?
that's all the way over there. I don't want to go off screen. Look, I look at it like this. This is going to open the door for other streaming sports.
Mm-hmm.
Like imagine watching the WNBA
I was just gonna say.
finals on Netflix.
Yeah.
And imagine the tools in which that they bring as it pertains to like the interactive features on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix.
Like purchase this jersey.
Like they did it so beautifully to focus on like comedians and
Mm-hmm.
everything else, and then also have some interactive games and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're starting to see it like play out. Like what really started off the whole thing was when they had interactive movies way back when,
Mm-hmm.
where you could like do different like types of decisions
Like
and
choose your own adventure.
yeah, you choose your own
Mm-hmm.
adventure. And honestly, I just think that they're just set up beautifully. Like, and then the fact that they're so very integrated across everything, I think that that's just a major opportunity that's coming down the
Mm.
pipeline. And I think that just I think people look at it and they say, okay, hey, they just think like, okay, Mark, it's streaming. And yeah, we just see, okay, hey, it's the revenue. But just imagine the add-on premium revenue that they can do. So like you have your
There's
base
opportunity.
you have your base Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have your add-ons.
Yeah. People.
Remember what I said about that freemium model? See, I told you I was going to
Yes.
bring it back in the
Yep.
gaming space,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, okay, hey, free to play. But now it's like, okay, hey, you want to play a little bit more? And then, hey, here's this add-on. Here's this downloadable content.
And then that goes back to retail. People are going to be purchasing. So it's all a cycle.
It's all connected.
Okay, so number five, which, like you said, is not necessarily in order, but your last pick.
Man, I was about to change
Officially.
it on the fly. I was so about to change it on the fly. But I'll stick to my gun here.
Okay.
Microsoft.
Okay.
The reason why I choose Microsoft is because I think that Microsoft's not done spending. I think that
Mm.
Microsoft,
They
of
got a
course,
lot of
through
money.
cloud, they've got a
Mhm.
lot of money. But interesting thing is, pay attention to two companies, and I'm gonna bring it back to gaming, but Ubisoft and EA.
Okay.
Major
EA Sports,
pillars as
yep.
it pertains to like game developers, or some of the last holdouts as it pertains to like pillars as it pertains to publicly traded companies. Of course, you have your Take-Two Interactive.
Mm-hmm.
But if EA and Ubisoft get acquired by private equity firms, which
Mm-hmm.
is very much a strong possibility,
Yes.
that could change things. Or we could probably see them being gobbled up. And if EA or Ubisoft, if either one of those is acquired by Microsoft, oof, it's lights out. Also, I can't wait to see like how Microsoft goes further into the entertainment space. Like I think
That'd
that
be
Microsoft
interesting.
is preparing to compete against Adobe.
Now that would be an interesting
I think
show
that
to sit back and
I think
watch.
that like honestly, prepare
Mm-hmm.
yourself, people. Notice what I've said in all of my top 5 picks. Each one of these companies is preparing for a showdown. And the thing is like a lot of times, like now some of these companies are still front runners and they're still going to just remain front runners.
Mm-hmm.
But as it pertains to what I'm seeing in some of the underdogs, though, they have a very good shot. I'm not saying going for the knockout because no, but I think that they have a very strong shot as it pertains to like staking their claim within the marketplace and holding on as sometimes we may go through a winter period in the market.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they have staying power where they can just like literally outlast other folks. And in the words of what was it, the TV show Billions, you don't have to outswim the sharks, you just have to outswim the guy you're scuba diving with.
Right. Let him meet the other guy.
Yeah. So
Did I
somebody
miss
said,
one?
"Is you dead?" I don't think that Unity is dead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they're dead. I think that honestly, it's just that they just don't get their due. But I mean, when you think about what's underneath the hood, as it pertains to like a lot of the car commercials and everything else that you see, and we're just getting and think about it, we just scratched the surface and finally reached the final phase of like, okay, hey, we've hit X amount of market penetration as it pertains to generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we're getting ready to see what's next underneath the hood. And I think that like companies like Unity Engine are going to play a massive role there. Like, the biggest thing that I will say, pay attention to. Pay attention. I mean, well, not as heavily, but just keep it on your radar. Pay attention to the entertainment space. The entertainment space is something that needs to like be studied right now. Like think about it. You have a lot of artists out there that are doing shows and everything else, and they're not selling out.
They're not.
They're not
But
selling out. They're not making the type of money that everybody thinks that they are, and they're looking for another way. And I think the same thing is going to hit the movie industry,
mm-hmm.
and the movie and like the film and television side of the tracks. I think it's going to hit the entire entertainment space, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that ultimately liberates.
I think like also when you think about the movies that are coming out, those that have like a strong press junket as far as their collaborations with other companies to create products
Hmm.
that you want to that are inspired by the movie. Like I think of like Wicked.
Yep.
There are so many companies from Aldo to Base Luggage, um, whoever makes like the little popcorn bucket.
Yep.
All those different elements are now creating this kind of rounded experience. It's like not only are you going to see the movie, but you're going to be part of the movie in some way, whether that's through fashion or through consumption of by some other means.
Yeah. I mean, of course, somebody mentioned, okay, what about Google being potentially broken up? One, I mean, that's a lot of red tape that you have to roll through in order to
Mm-hmm.
break up such a company. And then two, if you do break them up, I mean, Google's still going to have a lion's share of that company that goes public. So, and honestly, I think that here's, can I tell them the dirty secret?
Yeah, go
It's a
ahead.
dirty little secret within the fact that the reason why you don't see private like companies going public. Like, has it ever occurred to everybody? Like, why is it you don't really see companies going public? Like,
Why?
remember we used to see massive booms of
Mm-hmm.
companies going public? And trust me, there's a lot of companies out there that should be public, but they're just not.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself why. Like, one, they maintain a little bit more control without having to worry about, like, okay, the
Shareholders and
shareholders'
mhm.
pressure and everything else. And then two, the other part is when you go public, there's no liquidity there. Like, think about how much
Liquidity.
non-liquidity there
Mm-hmm.
is in the publicly traded market for new companies looking to step into the space. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have a company that goes public, first day they do maybe okay now. Well, beforehand, they used to have a great day. Now, coin flip. coin flip.
50-50 chance.
It's a 50-50 shot. And then after that day of going public, so if let's say if it's a terrible day, then 9 times out of 10, they're going to struggle for the remainder of the year. So for the next 12 months, that stock is going to struggle. Then they have to fight to get picked up as it pertains to coverage by investment banks. So to like literally have like a Loop Capital or Wells Fargo or JP Morgan or any of these firms pick you up to say, okay, hey, they give you some type of rating. And then it's like, you got companies like, for example, BlackRock that buy up BlackRock,
everything.
Vanguard. Like, think about it like this. These companies own more of Facebook and Amazon. They have more ownership stake than Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg.
Which is wild.
So if they ever did, so when people sit there and say like, okay, hey, well, these larger firms are dumping. No, they're not. Their positions are so massive. They're not going to dump the stock.
Yeah. It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's like, I just had this, it was just on my mind to share with folks because I see it in the chats and I see the chatter and everything else. So, and there.
Oh, there's a good reminder. Yes. Hit the like button, y'all.
Yeah.
And subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Welcome to all the new cousins in the building.
Yes,
Appreciate y'all.
indeed.
And obviously the shout out to the OGs. you know.
Yes. I need to clear the air though.
Oh my gosh.
I need to clear the air.
Clear the air.
Look, I'm gonna keep it black, but I'm gonna keep it brief.
Out the air.
Yeah. So look, it's a blessing coming back onto this channel to like literally produce content. I mean, I was really nervous about doing this all over again. Jolene will definitely tell you. But I still love doing what I do, which is like being here to like dedicate X amount of time to teach every single one of you. And sometimes our opinions are not going to align. Sometimes I may not always get it right. I think the thing is like to give you guys a quick little backstory as it pertains to what's been happening. I needed a break. And I think Jolene also needed a break. I mean, a lot transpired from like, let's say 2019 all the way up to 2023. And there was a lot of things that were happening in the background of things that ultimately, like for me, impacted like my mental health, my physical health. And then on top of that, there was other things as it pertains to the responsibilities in which that I had. And for me, it's like for a period of time, and I'm going to just be honest, like there was a period of time where I also resented what is it that I did here at the Come Up series because of some of the things that have transpired. Like people understand my day is already tough as it pertains to trying to make entrepreneurs successful, make their ideas successful. And then to also like kind of like carry the weight of the world on your shoulders to try to help each and every single one of you be successful. And it doesn't help when you got folks that like hit you up or like just talk, stuff about you. And it's like the only thing that you came out to do is really help. And so for me, it's like having to get counseling for that. Like I never thought in a million years that I would literally have to go and like literally get mental health counseling just to like literally like allow myself to like literally decompress from a lot of the things that was hitting me, though that I'm being hurt by the same people that I'm trying to help. And so moving forward, it's like, I want you guys to understand, like, if you don't rock with it, that's okay. Like that's the whole point of having a difference of opinion. We're not gangs out here. Like we don't roll like that. Like, like for example, the reason why I have great relationships with folks on Wall Street and also within venture capital and all these different spaces, we may not always agree with each other. But the thing is that we respect each other. We respect each other's opinions. Even if one of us gets it wrong, it's okay. And, sometimes we even joke about it, but even then it's like we still respect each other. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, I want you guys to understand, I'm not the savior for the black community. I'm not the savior for the culture. I just felt like the game needed change. And that's what we ultimately set out to do. I still believe that we could still do more change as it pertains to what we're seeing out there, because I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of the things that I've sat back and watched, and I think that, we can give you guys something better that allows you to be more inspired, that also inspires you to do great things and to do better and to go further. And that's ultimately our objective. And the moment that I believe that I can't help take you there, then that is ultimately my time to step out and bow out gracefully. So honestly, I'm not there at that point. I'm like LeBron James. I still got something left in the tank. I'm excited for the things in which that Jolene and I are going to share with you over this period of time. And ultimately, I just say, just have a little patience.
Grace.
Give us some grace. Like for example, in the same breath that we give you grace when you ask us a question that's Googleable, but yet we still answer it. Give us
Right.
that same grace when, say, for
That same
example,
energy.
like when we're not around. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. It was that type of energy that honestly, it's like I want us to do away with that, and I want us to focus on things in which that if you're out to get the bag, fine. If the information that we provide you helps you get there, great. Remember, and it was interesting because I said this to a lot of the folks at the summit that met me. It's like, Mark, you did this, you did this. No, I was just a person that just brought information and opinion and my insight. It was you that ultimately chose to press the button. It was you that ultimately chose to go further and to do your due diligence and technical analysis and also fundamental analysis and whatnot. And then you decided to execute. That's beautifully how it works. If that's the case, then you need to go thank every single teacher that you've literally walked into from elementary school to college or grad school or whatever it is. Go and thank them too, the same way that you like look to give me flowers. I look at it in the sense that we are just doing our part.
But also too though, Mark doesn't like thank yous. I
I
don't mind them.
don't.
My love language is affirmational, so hype me up, let me know. I appreciate all that. But this time that we've had, away from the Come Up series, well, I won't even say just away from being on here
Yeah.
because there's been so many things happening in the background. But I will say that the break that we took, it wasn't necessarily a break from, we were still creating things and doing things. It's just that it wasn't through this means, through this
Yeah.
platform, or through this
Yeah.
space. But going forward, we're easing back into things because mental health is very important and just wellness in general. And also just staying, sustainability, really.
Yes.
So, we're coming back every other Tuesday. So
That's
that
correct.
means that till the end of the year, including this episode, there's a total of 6 episodes where we're going live.
And if I'm feeling inspired, I'll drop an episode like onto the channel.
Yeah.
So
And there'll be, we're going to, like I said, we're easing back into it. There are a lot of different changes happening as we, engage you all and rebuild momentum. So, we'll be back in not next week, but the week after, same time, 5 p.m.
live
So
at 5.
live at 5. So yeah, definitely make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend, and we can all be friends. No, I'm just kidding. No, I ain't. Tell everybody. Yes, tell everyone because we are now on the road to 100K come up cousins that are
Yes.
armed with the knowledge. And again, as we're moving forward, Mark, like literally, I think the difference is going to be that it's more of a collaboration.
Yep.
So take on the role however you see fit, get in where you fit in, and link arms. Like we're always talking about the importance of community. That's one of our strongest assets is community. So as we continue to grow this community and grow this channel, take others with you on this journey.
Facts.
If you need to revisit old videos to kind of get those basics, that's cool. Because as we move forward, we will incorporate, classic come up series content that's original to the channel. But then also there's going to be these new things that are implemented. So it's going to be a fun ride.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. I mean, like I said, it's a different, it's a new breath of fresh air for me. Like especially since it's like headed in a totally different direction. Still
I
onward,
mean, we're like a
upward, still
startup.
onward, exactly,
We're
still
like a
onward,
startup,
upward.
y'all.
But it just feels better because of the fact is like y'all don't realize I probably put in about 80 hours of time towards FTC on
That's
a
our
weekly
parent. That's the Come
basis.
Up series
And
parent company.
that's the parent of the Come Up series. And so making sure that that does what it's supposed to do in order for the Come Up series to be able to do the things that it does for y'all. So Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how are we supposed to end this?
I think we just
Good
click.
night. It's
Bye.
time. No. I mean, thank you guys for rocking with us. And we hope that you
Yes.
guys like the content tonight. And we hope that you love the discussion. We'll be back not next week, but the week after. And we'll definitely be coming through with some more smoke.
That gives
But
plenty of time though, Mark, to, pawn the replay.
upon the replay, and then also like literally formulate a game plan strategy, go through your due diligence, and then on top of that, ask each other questions and whatnot. See what is it that I'm seeing that maybe you don't see, and if you still can't find it, I mean, hey, you can always send me a message via DMs, and I'll try my best to get to it. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm excited for 2025. I
Yeah.
really, really am. I'm excited for even this year to come to its close. I mean, exactly what she's doing.
Right.
But yeah, so until next time, I am Mark Monroe.
And I'm Jillian GC in the place to be.
And this has been your come up. See ya.